The last cohort I sold out within 24 hours. In fact, embarrassingly, I did a webinar to promote it. And halfway through the webinar, I realized I'd sold all the slots.
Meet Tom Mills, better known online as the procurement protagonist.
I have about 125,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I've built a newsletter called Procure Bytes, which has a following of 25,000 people. I'm passionate about procurement, and I coach procurement professionals around the globe.
But Tom didn't set out to be an influencer, nor does he have a marketing background. So how did he go from a full-time procurement professional to a self-employed business owner? And how did he build a following so strong that his signature program has sold out every time it's opened? Let's find out. Tom has over 25 years of procurement experience, but about a decade ago, the stress of his job almost broke him.
Procurement is a really tough job, actually, and it's perhaps underestimated in terms of the mental health challenges that some procurement professionals face because it's a very demanding job. It requires a good deal of stakeholder interaction, tough conversations, both internally and externally. And it was so tough that it was almost causing me some anxiety in my job. And actually, 10, 12 years ago, it got to the stage where I thought, oh my goodness, this isn't sustainable. Like, I love procurement, but it was a real challenge for me in terms of the impact it was having in my work-life balance.
But Tom realized that his technical skills weren't the real issue. Instead, he noticed that softer skills, like negotiating and building rapport, were the ones causing him stress. But because they didn't come as naturally, he started studying and seeking counsel to develop those skill sets.
So cognitive behavioral therapy helped me deliver frameworks for myself in terms of how to deal with those stressful situations. But the success of learning cognitive behavioral therapy and what it did for me in terms of being able to reduce my anxiety and my stress actually became a bit of a game changer because I thought, oh my goodness, if these frameworks work for me, what if I change them and transform them into procurement scenarios? So what if I develop my own framework to help deal with, for example, difficult conversations with stakeholders? And then when it really became impactful was when I started to coach members of my team with the framework. And it wasn't just one framework, I developed several frameworks. And they were feeding back to me to say, oh my goodness, I just used your framework for preparing for a difficult negotiation and it absolutely worked. And I thought, oh, I'm onto something here.
The shift was immediate, and Tom felt a renewed love for his job. But then two unexpected things happened that completely changed the course of his career. First, Tom realized that there was a huge conversation missing about the value of soft skills, not just hard technical skills, in procurement. Because while procurement professionals don't work directly with customers, they do work with partners and stakeholders. And without proper communication training, which is so common in sales, HR, and customer support, they're actually putting their companies at risk for major lost contracts and big business.
And a big part of the stress for procurement professionals is around the ability to deal with those difficult situations and have the emotional intelligence and the soft skills to be able to deal effectively. So there was a real gap that I realized that I'd identified for myself to try and overcome that situation, that I realized there's no one out there that's training it. There's nowhere really that's kind of focusing on those things, despite the fact that I knew the demand is high because it wasn't just me. People from my team, people that I'd met in networking events were saying, oh my goodness, it's so stressful. How do you deal with scenario X, Y, and Z? And I realized I had some magic frameworks which had helped me that I wanted to be able to teach.
But because it was 2020, Tom's teaching options were a bit limited by the COVID pandemic. So his second unexpected discovery happened when he started posting on LinkedIn.
So I'm going to say LinkedIn was a little bit accidental, if I'm honest. It wasn't a part of any strategic plan, but around about 2020, when COVID, it meant that lots of people were furloughed or they weren't able to connect in the same way. And I realized that I wanted to build a network and not just be reliant on in-person events. And to be honest, I missed that social interaction. I also love writing. So one of the things that I've always loved is writing. Right from a very young age, I used to write magazines for my family. That's just me. So I realized that LinkedIn became an outlet for that, but also an ability for me to build connections. And so it really made me realize what I was talking about began to resonate with an audience far wider than I'd ever connected with before. And partly I enjoyed it because I enjoy writing on LinkedIn, but partly I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's so many people out there that could benefit from what I've been through and I could help them with.
His content resonated, and the more he posted, the more his audience grew. Though one thing surprised him.
Originally, I used to kind of think, oh, if I write about various things, then I'll expand my audience. I soon realized that almost everything that I wrote about was procurement related. So it became really clear that my expertise, people came to me for procurement advice. And I had one goal, and that was that people online would associate the name Tom Mills with procurement, which I think I've achieved now. But that was really important.
At the same time, he was starting to feel a few of LinkedIn's limitations.
I realized after being quite consistent with my LinkedIn content from about 2022 that I was gaining real traction in terms of my LinkedIn following. But I also understood that social media, particularly LinkedIn, is rented space. So effectively, you don't own your audience. It's algorithm based. And I could write a bad post one day and it would get next to no traction. And I wanted to be able to connect with my audience on a deeper level and have more guaranteed access to them. So that's when I decided to build my newsletter.
Tom's newsletter is called Procure Bites, and after its launch, it quickly started gaining momentum.
When we first met, I had a newsletter of about 5,000 subscribers. And I thought, well, that's actually quite significant audience now that I have direct access to, that trust me, like my frameworks, like what I talk about.
And here's how he got there.
I had a lead magnet, which was cheat sheets that I was giving on LinkedIn to help build my email audience. And then my newsletter was twice weekly. So I think there was an element of word of mouth around the newsletter. It was about 9 months of consistent building on my newsletter to get to that stage.
To reach 5,000 subscribers organically in 9 months is a huge accomplishment. And when I asked Tom if he had any advice about audience building, here's what he shared.
It will sound a little bit boring, but consistency is really key. People actually trust the people who will turn up consistently over a long period of time. So there's a danger, I think, that some people think that social media is some magic overnight fix. And to me, the trust is built through delivering consistently. But then the second bit of advice I would give is to always be thinking about the audience in terms of what's going to add value to them rather than just talking about yourself. And I know that might sound obvious, but there's a danger when you write that you can forget that ultimately people are wanting to engage with you because they want something from you. And so I always thought, what do I know now that I didn't know 2 years ago or 5 years ago, that I wish I had known in procurement? So I applied that to every bit of content that I wrote. And I thought, oh, I've just learned something here, or there was a specific scenario I dealt with today that I think could be really helpful to my audience. And then I'd write about that.
It's that genuine, generous approach that makes Tom's content stand out, because he doesn't just talk at his followers. He speaks with them and encourages real two-way conversation.
But that was almost another key signal for me that said, actually, Tom, what you deliver is really helping people on a global basis. And maybe you've got something, a product or a service that you could start to build into something that's sellable, but will actually help people.
Tom knew he wanted to share his soft skills frameworks with a wider global audience. But while his online course idea started to take shape, in his own words, he had no clue where to start.
I started to look online. I started to Google. I didn't have a clue, to be honest, Melissa, in terms of how to do it, what to do. And I'm not brilliantly competent with technology. So I remember even the basic things of understanding what microphone to get and understanding what platforms to get, I needed to do research on.
So, as many of us do, Tom turned to YouTube to find answers.
And that's when I discovered your content, actually, Melissa. And I started to watch a lot of the Wit and Wire content. And you were so helpful at explaining, but in a way that I felt there was no bias within it. It was very, very clearly objective and so helpful. Not only were you able to help me through the YouTube, it also made me realize actually there's a lot of advice out there. And maybe this isn't something that I need to do on my own.
Transparently, that's when Tom reached out about working together. And for clear disclosure, Tom is a paid Wit and Wire client, but he was not compensated for this interview. And while we've now worked together for years, in the beginning, he didn't make that decision lightly.
Yeah, I'm in procurement, and with procurement, we're very careful with our money. So we're very careful in terms of how we spend. So I remember thinking, oh, I really want to join this course. This program sounds exactly what I need. this is an investment. And oh my goodness, like how am I going I even remember having a conversation with my wife around, oh, I'm almost having to justify this is going to be really important. And that's a good thing because I think being wise with your investment is really important. But it was quite a leap of faith for me to be able to make that. But I think I'd contacted you a couple of times because I'd received a couple of your email promos, and this is something that is actually good advice for anyone who's delivering their own course. You were so helpful with your responses and so quick to reply that again it built trust in that actually there's a real person who's delivering this. She cares about my success. She's not just trying to sell me the course. She's invested in helping me deliver an effective program. So that trust built. And then that final feeling of spending that money and investing in course builders, it was like almost a bit of a relief because I was like, okay, finally, I'm not alone. There's someone who's going to show me how to do this, help elevate the program, and gave me the confidence to think, I can do this. And I think that getting that congratulations email you've joined from course builders, it might sound a really small thing, but all of a sudden it was like a weight lifted because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I've got help and I've got support.
And since Tom is an action taker, he started making progress right away.
So it just felt like I went really quickly from, I've got an idea of a course that I want to deliver to actually having content, having a structure and having a sales page. And that's actually something I should mention, Melissa. Even the basics of having a sales page, because I built mine in Notion, and the fact that you have in course builders a really clear template from a proven template in terms of how to market your course gave me the confidence that the way I was structuring it would work. And I think that again is underestimated because clearly you've got years of experience in terms of the marketing side. I've worked in procurement all my life, so I'm not a marketeer, but can be able to access that knowledge and then be able to translate that and almost template it over to my course was a real game changer for me. Massive time saver, but as I said, the confidence it made me feel in terms of, okay, I can actually use this and I know that it works.
Tom decided to name his new program Procurement Soft Skills Mastery.
There's the foundation stage, there's the framework stage, and there's the future stage. So what it does is it takes a procurement professional on a 10-week journey. They may not be feeling confident in their role. They may realize that there's certain things that they love about procurement, but other things that they really struggle with. They know when they join my course, the soft skills is something they really want to focus on. They want to drive better impact and better relationships. So it's very agnostic of level. It's very agnostic of hierarchy, but everyone who goes away from my course, they already feel more confident to be able to deliver in their day to day. And that might be things like how to network effectively, how to get promoted and earn more, which is a very popular workshop that I deliver, which is focused on things like interview skills, but it's also focused on perhaps the things that aren't talked about enough in terms of how to have impact internally, how to deal with senior stakeholders, how to be better known within your organization, all things that I've learned in my 25 years career that I can package up in a way that helps individuals who may be 5, 10 years behind me in terms of those steps.
But there's also an important internal shift.
There's a mindset shift as well to say, okay, maybe I can go for promotion because maybe I now have the frameworks that I know will help me to deal with the more difficult scenarios that you face.
And within a few months, Tom was ready to start selling.
Yeah, so I joined in January and I sold my first product on April the 1st. So it was about 3 months, which I think is incredible given that I had absolutely nothing, no content. I hadn't even got a structure for my course in that January. And I remember that feeling, because this was £1,000 transaction that came through on Stripe. I remember that feeling as that came through. And I remember sending a message to my wife and saying, this is real now. And it was just amazing. So, and then the sales trickled through and I sold all my founders spots within, I think it was about 10 days of the program going live. And I thought, okay, I've got something now and it's delivered. And it was a trigger for me being able to do what I've done today.
Tom sold out all 12 spots in his first enrollment, and he would offer this advice for any first-time course creators.
I think there's a danger. A lot of people, when they go into creating a course, they think, oh, it's got to be perfect before I can release it. What I realized was your first product, the founders round that you deliver, actually doesn't have to be perfect. You can get people to pay for your course while still developing the content. And that for me was a real game changer, because I'd say it helped me to get something out there, make money from my course, maybe 6, 9 months sooner than I would if I hadn't have followed your program. That was really huge for me.
Over the next 10 weeks, Tom delivered his curriculum to his earliest students via live virtual workshops.
At the start, when I originally decided to validate the course, I delivered it as live workshops, thinking eventually I'll move this so that it's online content and people can just access at any point. But I realized I'm really enjoying this interaction. I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm getting to know people on a personal level. So that is an element that has really surprised me. The other thing is, for me, being able to feed off and learn from scenarios that students are bringing to me has actually helped me develop and learn, but also has helped me in my content creation journey. So it's always created a feedback loop whereby I found myself 2 weeks ago within a workshop helping someone with a specific scenario, and then realizing that scenario is actually hugely relevant to lots of my audience. So it then became core content to my newsletter. So it almost became like a kind of reciprocating thing that actually helped me develop more resonance to my audience. So that really surprised me.
And he modeled part of his approach after something he noticed I do for Wit and Wire students.
I'd asked a really basic question, or what I thought was a basic question, in that chat, and you'd actually come back to me with a 6-minute video recording answer of it. And I remember showing it to my wife to say, oh my goodness, this is so good. The service I'm getting from Melissa is so helpful. But knowing that you were there, you were recording an answer to something. And again, by the way, this is something I've now translated in terms of how I deliver my course. So there was a kind of vicarious learning experience there as well. But it made me think, oh my goodness, you are really invested in it. So having that opportunity to have that access to that online support, both through the community, but also through the group coaching calls, was just brilliant.
By the time his first students graduated, Tom realized that the program he'd created really worked.
I think all 11 came back to me with testimonials, which were 5-star. So I was like, wow, like, testament to course builders, but obviously, hopefully I'd done the right things myself. But it gave me the confidence to say, I've got something that I now know I've validated delivers value. So I felt, I guess, less worried about promoting it, because I was thinking, well, actually, I'm promoting something that's valuable. Like, I'm not selling something here. I'm promoting something people need to know. But I have to say, being honest, Melissa, there was an element of me thinking, was it just fluke that I sold 11 places the first time? Was it just a suppressed demand that I'd filled, and would I ever be able to sell it again? So I remember that autumn, because I'd originally sent the first cohort in the spring, being quite nervous about going through the sales journey, but I was able to use the testimonials that I'd collected to then become part of the validated sales journey. And I signed up the next program without any real trouble. I deliberately kept the slots to a certain limited number, because a key part of my courses, it's about people having exclusive, intimate access to me through the workshops, etc. But it almost gave me that validation to say, okay, this isn't a fluke, Tom. There's demand there, and actually your audience wants it. And you can and should be promoting it, because you're actually delivering a product that's helping change people's lives.
As Tom's course continued to sell, he started wondering how far his momentum could take him.
Because bearing in mind, I was still in a full-time corporate career at this stage, but it also made me realize I've got a service that there's demand for, and that is actually helping people. So I think it was the following January, I sold my third cohort, and I realized, actually, maybe this is something I can go full-time into. And maybe this is the linchpin for me going into building my own business. But that felt very strange to me, Melissa, because I come from a background of a family that aren't entrepreneurs. We play it safe. We have very steady careers. My parents were both teachers, and it was a big leap for me. But I just felt this pull. It was almost like okay, this course delivers. You've got a product that people want to buy. Your audience is growing, and that's a key part. My LinkedIn audience and my newsletter was growing almost exponentially as well. So I realized there are all these signals to say, Tom, go where the energy is and go where you're really enjoying things.
And the impact of going full-time was immediate.
Obviously, there's the basic things of us at the time having to work a lot of weekends or extra hours to deliver my business and top up my corporate career. But the growth in terms of the revenue just went up by about threefold within the first 3 months. Partly because of the energy, perhaps partly because I was able to more confidently promote about my business online, and I was able to accept opportunities that I'd previously not. So it just felt like something was unlocked when I went full time into my business. And of course, there's that compelling drive that says, oh, I no longer have a steady paycheck. I no longer have that monthly guaranteed income. I've now got to make it work. Whereas previously, there's almost a kind of, it's nice extra revenue. It became I've now got to make this work. So that obviously drives accountability as well.
He's also been able to build a global audience.
I've really valued now building my network in a way where I know and have taught people in Nigeria, Jordan, Malaysia, India, South Africa, Europe, America, Brazil, Canada, amazing that I now know people and have helped people on a global basis. And for me, that ability to collaborate, get to know people from different cultures has been huge in terms of my own personal growth, if that makes sense. So, and I think that kind of connectedness is a key part to, I mentioned happiness. For me, I'm quite values driven, and that ability to be able to meet and reach out and build connection with people from all sorts of different countries, regions, has been huge.
And over the last 2 years, Tom's students continue to get exceptional results.
One of the best feelings I get from my course and what gives me the highest satisfaction is that I keep in touch with almost all my students. They all come back to me 6 months, 12 months later to say, oh, I just got promoted and it was because of procurement soft skills mastery, or I now feel so much more confident because of what you've delivered. And oh my goodness, beyond the kind of monetary value of being able to sell a course, that feeling that I'm giving back and helping students and that they keep in touch and they now become advocates for me, it's just such a nice feeling. And that's the value that I truly get.
So it's no surprise that demand has never been higher. And ever since its launch in April 2024, Tom has continued to sell out procurement soft skills mastery every time it reopens.
I've got to the stage now where with procurement soft skills mastery, it's basically oversubscribed because the last cohort I sold out within 24 hours. In fact, embarrassingly, I did a webinar to promote it. And halfway through the webinar, I realized I'd sold all the slots. So I want that demand to be there. And from my perspective, that's a real validation to say I've got something that's really helpful.
Plus, the huge draw remains the ability to learn directly from Tom as a mentor.
I've made a deliberate decision to still deliver them as live workshops because I value the interaction directly with the students. There is an element whereby, of course, I could choose to make it kind of evergreen lifetime access without me being live. But because it's online, I have to travel less. So now I only travel when I want to. So I'm not having to drive to a corporate office 3 days a week or get stuck on motorways, which in the UK can be really, really stressful. When I travel now, it's because there's something that I want to travel to. And those might sound like small things, but they're actually really big when it comes to being able to get that quality of life and that balance.
And selling online programs has helped Tom pursue one of his biggest goals, which is financial freedom.
When I say financial freedom, I mean the freedom to choose where I work, when I work, and to be able to have some downtime, but also importantly to redress the balance and spend more time with family. There were some things that I was able to do which I would have never previously imagined possible. So, for example, I took the entire July off, and I don't think I've done that since I'd finished my A-levels. And it was just that amazing feeling to be able to say, yeah, we're going on holiday in July, but you know what? I'm going to go to Glastonbury Festival. I'm going to take a week off and just visit family, that type of thing.
Because for Tom, success has always been deeper than just a revenue goal, though that's going pretty well too.
I get quite emotional talking about it because, yes, feel really proud that my business has been successful. But the thing that really gives me that kind of feeling of warmth and happiness is the fact that I'm helping individuals. And so my experiences from 10, 12 years ago, I overcame them. I built the resilience to overcome them, but I've been able to use that experience in a positive way to help other people. And that's huge for me.
Since Tom's signature program continues to sell out, he recently decided to add a new membership to his business called the Procurement Vault.
Because I realized that lots of the tools and templates and the admin work around procurement was a big reason for the fact that a number of students, a number of procurement people struggle in the role. And I realized through my career, I had a whole suite of templates, tools, things that people wanted to use, which I could put in one place. The procurement vault is something that is growing. It grows every week. I always add content to it and it becomes like a library, a one-stop shop for people. And that's almost the lower price, but still high value entry point in terms of people working with me. So that's been hugely exciting. It's only just launched, but I did a pre-sale, which actually 188 people signed up to, which was incredible. And again, I learned many of the techniques for how to build that through working with you, Melissa.
It's a really exciting addition for Tom's business, which now has one evergreen product available for purchase year-round, and one signature program, which is premium and available roughly 3-ish times per year. Plus, it's noteworthy that product sales aren't Tom's only revenue stream.
Because of the audience growth that I've achieved and because of what I'm known for, I get called to do keynote speeches. So I'm a public speaker and I get paid for that. And I get sponsored partnerships because my newsletter is now 25,000 procurement professionals. And that's hugely valuable to procurement companies who may have a good product or service, but they want to get it out there, professionals. So 3 core elements. And honestly, I kind of pinched myself. And it all started with finding you online and finding course builders, because I genuinely think that that was the catalyst.
Working with business owners like Tom, who love what they do and are truly exceptional, is one of the best parts of my job. And it's so rewarding to see how his business and opportunities continue to grow.
The way you give and deliver on your course became a real key to what I've translated in terms of how I deliver to my students, because I always felt like you went above and beyond. So there was always a feeling of, oh my goodness, this is so much more than I ever expected in terms of the value you gave. And so I always almost translated that to what I give to my students as their experience. So I think that that's hugely underestimated. There's so many things, there's so many courses online, there's so many people selling things online where you end up investing and you almost feel a bit disappointed. And with you, it was the complete opposite. I was almost like, oh my goodness, I want to learn more from Melissa. And that's how I've now translated in terms of delivering my own business. So that's the biggest compliment I can give you, I think.
If you or anyone you know works in procurement or sells to procurement, then I highly recommend Tom's free newsletter, Procure Bites. And here's everywhere you can find Tom Mills online that are known as the procurement protagonist.
People can also look up my soft skills mastery course, Procurement Soft Skills Mastery, which part of my website as well. So I'd love it. People have any questions, come and see me there. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn.
If you enjoyed Tom's story, I hope you will like, comment, and subscribe to Wit and Wire. And you can learn more about our programs for course creators at witandwire.com/programs. For now, here's one last parting note from Tom.
In life, there's always 99 reasons why not to do something and one really compelling reason to do something. And our voice in our heads almost goes towards those 99 reasons not to do something, because there's that kind of fear that kind of prevents us moving forward. But I bet you the compelling reason to do something will ultimately be the game changer.